Title: The Judge and the Prisoner. A story about justice, redemption, and the courage to forgive. The courtroom was silent, the kind of silence that carried weight, the kind that made even air feel heavier. Judge Eleanor Hart, known for her firmness and unshakable principles, sat behind the bench. In front of her stood a man she had sentenced 10 years ago, Daniel Reeves. Judge Hart: Mr. Reeves, 10 years. That's a long time. When I last saw you, you were furious. You blamed the world, the system, everyone but yourself. Why are you here today? Daniel, softly: Your Honor, I came because I needed to face the person who changed my life. Back then, I thought you destroyed me, but now I realize you saved me. Judge Hart: Saved you? I sentenced you to prison for armed robbery. Daniel: Yes, and it was the first time in my life anyone held me accountable. Before that, I thought punishment was cruelty, but in prison, I learned it could also be mercy. The judge studied his face, older, calmer, but marked with years of reflection. Something in his eyes had changed. There was no arrogance, no bitterness, only peace. Judge Hart: What made you change, Mr. Reeves? Daniel: A letter from my mother. She wrote, "Justice doesn't end when the sentence begins." That line haunted me, so I started reading, studying law books in the prison library, just trying to understand why I ended up there. Judge Hart: And did you find your answer? Daniel: Yes, I found that justice isn't about revenge. It's about responsibility. You once said, "The law cannot heal a man, but it can guide him toward healing." At the time I laughed. Now I live by those words. The courtroom remained still. Even the guards seemed to listen. For a moment, it was not a judge and a prisoner. It was two human beings, separated by choices, connected by truth. Judge Hart: Tell me, Daniel, what did you do with that understanding? Daniel: I began teaching. At first, just helping other inmates read. Then, tutoring them for their GEDs. I realized that ignorance is a kind of prison too, one far worse than bars. When I helped a man pass his first exam, he cried. That day, I decided I'd never go back to who I was. Judge Hart, softly: You've turned punishment into purpose. Daniel, smiling faintly: I had to, because if I didn't, the years would mean nothing. The judge's eyes softened, a rare crack in her iron composure. For years, she had questioned whether her harsh sentences ever truly changed lives. Now, standing before her was living proof. Judge Hart: Mr. Reeves, what do you want from this court today? Daniel: Nothing, Your Honor. I don't want my record erased. I don't want sympathy. I came to thank you and ask one question. Judge Hart: What question? Do you believe people like me deserve a second chance? Not in theory, but in your heart. Judge Hart: I've spent my whole career upholding the law, and the law doesn't speak of hearts. It speaks of facts, evidence, guilt. But over time, I've learned something the law can't teach. Yes, I do believe people can change, because justice without hope is just another kind of prison. Daniel: That means more to me than any release paper ever could. The silence returned, but this time it was gentle. A silence of understanding. Judge Hart slowly stood from her chair. Judge Hart, Mr. Reeves, I can't undo your past, but I can honor your present. From this day forward, you're no longer just the man I sentenced. You are the man who proved that redemption is real. Daniel, emotionally, I never thought I'd hear those words from a judge. Judge Hart, and I never thought I'd say them to a prisoner. The two shared a quiet nod, not of forgiveness alone, but of mutual respect. As Daniel turned to leave, sunlight streamed through the courtroom windows, bathing him in a soft golden glow. He paused, then looked back one last time. Your Honor, one last thing. I'm starting a nonprofit to help released inmates rebuild their lives. If I could, I'd like to name it after something you once said. Judge Hart, oh, and what's that? Daniel, justice heals when compassion leads. You said it during my trial. I never forgot. Judge Hart, smiling for the first time. Then perhaps justice has finally done its job. As the courtroom doors closed behind Daniel Reeves, Judge Hart remained standing, quiet, thoughtful. She had delivered thousands of sentences in her career, but that day, for the first time, she felt what it truly meant to set someone free. Title card. Justice is not the end of the road, it's the beginning of redemption.